morning, sailors. Happy Thursday to you. It's May 6th, and we're moving right along in Chapter 9. So today, we're going to start Lesson 2 and look at comparing experimental and theoretical probabilities. The last 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, you worked in Lesson 1, which was finding probability of simple events. And so we're going to start with a warm-up first to review that before we head into Lesson 2. So you'll see on the agenda, it is linked here if you'd like to open up the warm-up on this link. Otherwise, here on the video, I'm going to bring it up. And so you just have 2 questions to look at. You'll need your calculator. Well, maybe. Honestly, when you look at these 2, you could probably do them without. It should hopefully be some common sense on these. But if you feel you need it next to you, by all means, you can have it. Number 1 is going to ask you a simple probability question with the spinner there. And then number 2 is also simple probability, but it has to do with complements, which was on Tuesday, we talked about what a complement was with probability. So take a few minutes. You can either write them down and work them out, or if you want to do them out loud in your crew, or if you want to work with somebody in your pod, that's fine too. And then when you think you have the answers ready to go for 1 and 2, I will meet you back here. Okay. So let's take a look at number 1. Your spinner there on the right has 8 sections to it. And so it's asking you or telling you the spinner to the right is spun once. And so find the probability of the spinner landing on a multiple of 2. So think about your multiples of 2, right? You're thinking 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and so on, right? It can keep going and going and going. But since that spinner is only through 8, that means the only multiples of 2 on that spinner are 2, 4, 6, and 8. There's 4 of them. So you have 4 possibilities out of 8 total outcomes there, 4 out of 8. And so that means if you simplify that, that's 1/2. And as a percent, that's 50%. And then also that's 0.5 or 50 hundredths as your decimal. And so we talked about in Lesson 1 being able to take a probability and express it as a fraction, express it as a percent, and as a decimal. On top of that, in Lesson 1, we talked about looking at the likelihood of an event occurring. And so your likelihood of landing on a multiple of 2 on that spinner is 50%, which is equally likely to happen, okay? Number 2, refer to the table below. And so suppose a train that's arriving in Chicago is selected at random. What is the probability that the train did not arrive on time? So looking at that table, you see 3 cities, right? And then arrivals percent on time. Now, if Chicago is selected at random, and I'm looking specifically at that city, the train's arrival on time in that city happens 75% of the time. So if you put 75%, that would be incorrect. That's on time. We want to find the complement, right? How many did not arrive on time? And so remember when we talked about complements, the probabilities have to add together to 1, meaning if 75% of the time it's on time, 25% of the time it is not arriving on time. So your answer for number 2, the complement to that is 25% not arriving on time. Okay, so that takes care of your warm-up. Let's come back to the agenda for a minute and look at what else we're going to do. So your learning target with Lesson 2, I can compare experimental and theoretical probabilities. So also in number 1, after the warm-up there, we're going to look at a couple different book pages. I'm going to do 2 different videos with that. So on page 719, we're going to start there to begin with. You'll need your calculator. You're going to watch that video next and do a little bit on that book page with me. And then afterwards, when that one's done, you're going to go to the next video, the last one, the 3rd video, and work with me on page 722 again with your calculator. So given if there's any time, all I put there is with your time remaining at number 2, you can continue to work on the 2 buzz math that you worked on Tuesday when I gave that to you. If you have not completed that, that just practices your simple probability, your Lesson 1. And then your Alex as well at number 3. Okay, so I will meet you back in this second video with your math book at page 719 and a calculator ready to go.